How you doing, folks? You're watching Onward with Onrie. I'm your host, Kompan, and this week I have a very special guest with us. Please welcome David Anthony Krafft, my co-writer and co-creator on the YI SOON SHIN Trilogy. And this week we're going to be talking about what we've been up to, because in about a month we're going to be launching a Kickstarter for the very next issue of YI SOON SHIN, Hunter and Destroyer, #1, which we're halfway done with. And we kind of want to give you guys a little bit of a catch-up as to what we've been up to since we finished Fallen Avenger 4, because it's now been, what, 2 years now since we released the last book. So today we're going to be talking about what we've been up to, what we're working on right now, all the great things we're going to be bringing to you, and so on and so forth. So Dave, welcome to the show. Good to see you. Dak, hey. Welcome to the show.
And welcome to being on location on Screamer Mountain.
Yes, absolutely. That was the one thing I forgot to mention. We're on location. This is your library, and you have a very beautiful home. And this is, what, like my 4th or 5th visit here.
Yeah, practically lives
Yeah,
here.
absolutely. Well, I've made a nest here in Dak's den here, and I'm planning to write the next great American novel here. So
we're calling it YI SOON SHIN.
Yeah, we're calling it YI SOON SHIN, and that's pretty much what we've been up to for the last like 2 days.
During Henri's visits, we work on Yi, and we also have a really good time. We try different, we try different fine alcohols.
Oh yeah.
This is the Frank Sinatra blend of Jack Daniels,
which tastes brilliant, by the way. I mean, it's got a really it burns down your throat while you drink it, but it's got such a sweet cinnamony aftertaste. It's really good.
Then you start singing those Sinatra-like songs.
Yeah, absolutely. But I don't have a very good singing voice. I need to be drinking more of this.
Anybody who isn't Kanye has a good singing voice. That guy should be ashamed. Anyhow, when Henri comes down, we have these really kind of intense work sessions on Yi. Sometimes it's plotting the arcs for the next series of issues, like the first book, the middle book, or the one we are now starting, the final book. And other times it's scripting scenes or working on layouts, which we did a lot yesterday. Pretty intense, but they're great layouts.
Yes, they are. And it's really cool because all your years of experience working in the comic book industry, I mean, you got your career start at Marvel, and you were basically there to see the company build its way to the success it is today. And not only have you done that, you've also gone off to start, the Comics Interview, which you ran for 150 issues. You've interviewed with, pretty much every big name in the comic book industry. You even got them to provide you with exclusive art for your periodical, that was exclusive for you to use.
That's why it's a great collector's item.
Oh, absolutely. And you're selling those too, right? You have the big omnibuses and everything.
Yeah. We're trying to keep it in print.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic.
Yeah, I've been around for a while, around the block a few times. I like to take credit for the success of Marvel myself, because coincident with my arrival is when they became the #1 bestsellers. So I don't know, is that coincidence? Or,
well, I mean, here's the thing. Some people can laugh. I get that you're being kind of sarcastic with this, but in essence, I don't think many people can laugh at that, because it's true. You have. I mean, you launched She-Hulk. Stan launched She-Hulk, but you basically created the universe that She-Hulk existed in.
It's kind of a little point of pride with me. She-Hulk is the last major Marvel character that Stan created, and my following him on that is the last time anybody sort of worked off of what Stan was doing and carried it forward and made it into a major Marvel character.
And it's no irony that Stan wrote the foreword to YI SOON SHIN. I mean, you worked for him. There's pictures in your study area where you have photos of you hanging out with Stan Lee, and you guys worked together. I mean, you helped bring the you made the first Beatles comic for Marvel. You got George Perez to do the artwork on that, and you also got George Perez on his first color work for Marvel and transformed Man-Wolf into the Star God. I mean, like, that's stuff that still hasn't appeared on screen. And when you look at the success of movies like Guardians of the Galaxy, where they've taken a character like Rocket Raccoon and made it big, it just seems that the natural order of things is to follow suit and bring Star God to the big
I
screen.
strongly suspect there's something in the works, and of course, they're keeping tight lips on that, but they're in big hurries for me to do nothing, which is the thing I always tease them about at Marvel. I'm like, so you need me to, send you a contract, but you're not planning to do anything.
Yeah, right.
So what's, but my suspicion now is it may be Sony.
Oh,
Because-
yeah, that's right. It falls
Because
into
Sony
that.
is doing those sort of Spider-Man.
Yeah, they have the
things,
Spider-Man
and Man-Wolf
universe.
spun off of
Yeah,
that.
right.
But on the other hand, She-Hulk too, they're doing a second Marvel Masterworks collection of my
Yeah,
She-Hulk.
yeah.
And for all I know, there's something in the works.
Oh, I bet there is. How can there not be? It's She-Hulk, And they're talk about an all-female Avengers movie in the works. It seems natural you need a Hulk character to replace Hulk. Well, She-Hulk, she fits perfectly there. And, this is kind of like, we've been working together now for about a decade. As of next September, a year from this upcoming month here, and you've always taken a lot of pride in the work you've done for Marvel, particularly what you did with the Defenders. But you also moved on to DC. You worked for DC for a little bit, and then, like we were discussing, you had the comics interview going for 150 issues, and you basically got you dipped your hand in pretty much every facet of publishing that there is, and now you've passed this knowledge, and you continue to pass this knowledge on to me, and it
My
goes.
young Padawan learner.
Yeah, that's right.
Also my brother from another mother.
Yeah, no, there you go. Well, kind of like how you were telling me before, you were also very close to Saul Brodsky at Marvel, and you saw him as your Jewish father. Well, I think after this point, I kind of see you as my comic book father.
Ah, yes.
So that's how I like to liken it to, even though I know.
And we should tell people,
Yeah.
this is a very, it's a working situation that should not work.
Yeah.
Henri hired me to be put in charge of every aspect of YI, including him. So the guy who hired me, I can be in charge of and go, no. And you'd think that would invite like some kind of conflict, but we actually really work well together.
Well, it's because you have my six, and that's the whole idea. Like, Yi Soon Shin was only as strong as the people he surrounded himself with. And he treated all of his officers with respect. And guess what? He had someone at his back, telling him when he was fucking up shit. Because every human is flawed. It's just excluding you, of course.
Present company always excluded.
Yeah, present company always excluded. But you've always had my back on this series, and I would much rather hear the negative commentary come from you when it's not working, so that I can work towards making it work, and not only please the team that I'm working with, who will naturally want to follow suit and put the same amount of effort into it, but then it translates onto the audience too, and they appreciate how much more we put into it. So,
and I think the basic ground rules that we work from are everything is serving the story. So
Absolutely.
It's not about ego. It isn't about I'm right and he's wrong, or he's right and I'm wrong. It's about what makes a better story.
yeah.
So then you really can't argue with that, because sometimes it means a lot more work to rewrite a scene or to relay out something like we did yesterday
Oh,
to make it better, because hey, who would know? You just put it out anyway, right?
yeah,
But I'll tell you who would know. We would know.
yeah.
And, the extra effort has really been worth it, but it's one of the reasons Orson Welles, with those old wine commercials, probably long before anyone's time, but he used to sit back and go, "Release no wine before its time." And that's how we do with YI, which is a really kind of a unique working experience for me, because I like to joke, and in joking, many a truth is spoken. But whether I rubber stamp something okay, and I keep threatening. His initials are okay, but I keep threatening to get a rubber stamp, and it's like, okay, this is a weak script, okay, because it would be easy. And it doesn't affect the way that I get paid. So if I work more, if I put in an extra week or an extra month, guess what? I'm doing that on my own time. And so I'm the guy who makes me work for a quarter an hour. But the upside of all of that is all that Marvel and DC stuff, and even the stuff I published, it was like marching orders. They're all on schedules, monthly or bi-monthly. And these schedules must be met. All the comic book work, not just by me, but anybody you've seen at Marvel over the years, Stan, everybody, it had to be done in record short time. You do a plot like over a night or over 2 days, the artist would draw like, say, everybody's trying to keep working to meet that schedule. That's why they have separate people like inkers and artists, pencilers and so on. Well, 5 pages might come in, and in order to get them lettered so they could be inked, I would have to write them overnight. And that's after working all day long in the bullpen as an editor. So that stuff, all of it, it's a wonder that it came out as good as it did, because a lot of it, I mean, it was the best you could do in a short period of time. And Yi is so much the opposite. It's like a luxury. We don't put anything out until we are absolutely happy with it.
You say it's a luxury, but it's anything but, because my feeling is this, I have to sell this book, and the sooner I can have it out there, the sooner I can get I can please the audience, our audience. And we have a lot of members of our clubs and stuff like that coming up to us all the time and saying, hey, when's Hunter and Destroyer coming out? What's happening next? And I have no problems reassuring them that we're working on the series, because we absolutely are, and that puts them at ease, because they know that they know that what we're doing is going to advance everything. I mean, we spent probably at least the last 8 months doing research on Yi, little by little, to bring ourselves to the point where we could actually tell the story that we wanted to tell, because it's not just about following the history. I mean, essentially anybody can go on Wikipedia, and there's so many books that are written that you can piece the entire history of Yi Soon Shin together. But the reason why...
That would be very dry and boring and historical.
Oh, of course. And history is the one thing we always talk about, how you want to avoid using that word. And I don't talk enough about that. And I think you put it in so much better words than I do, about the dreaded H word.
Well, it is dreaded. It's only been really in recent times that I've even come around to so-called history. And I came around to having an interest, to me in school, it was always about dry, boring details that didn't matter. What color was the sky when Columbus landed? Was it Tuesday, the November 11th, or was it, it's like, who gives a shit about this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Boring shit. And usually, when there's something that's historical, it's dry, and it just recounts the facts, and who cares? I mean, it's not interesting. The approach that we have on Yi is more like, say, the Tudors miniseries on TV, or things like that, where we're following the historical outline of the actual events that took place, but we are weaving into that our characters with our takes on their conflicts and their personal lives to keep everybody, and I'm so happy, this book, I was hoping from the start it would, appeals to women as well. It's not just a guy's book about war, because of the human drama. And that's what we bring to the whole thing. So we study the history, and then we're doing a comic book, and again, most people probably don't have any reason to think about this stuff, but a comic book is very little space to do a lot of information in. So let's say it's a TV show. There's motion that they have, and sound, and actors who you can recognize and so on. In a comic book, we may have, let's say on average, 5 frames per page for 24 pages. We have to tell a whole complex story, get a feeling of motion in it and all that, without action, without sound, and that means you have to really hone it down to the essentials. So we spend all this time studying history in order to leave it out.
Well, essentially, well, knowing what to leave out,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
also let's remember another thing that people take for granted. We look at these historical figures as if they were larger than life because essentially everything that surrounds them, their legends, is larger than life. That's why they stick out in history. Like, take
And
Yi
he
Soon-
certainly was.
He certainly
Yeah.
was. I mean, he was undefeated. Yi Soon Shin was undefeated in battle. But don't think he wasn't as human as you or me, or that the people who were around him.
He didn't
weren't
know
human.
that he was going to win each battle.
No, he did not.
Yeah,
And
he
we
did
can't.
that,
And it's the drama behind that. And again, I think it's where a lot of people come up to me sometimes when I'll pitch them, and they'll say, once I give them my pitch, they're like, "You just told me the whole story." It's like, no, I didn't. You have only scratched the very tip of the iceberg.
As you put it really well, that's like saying in World War II, the Allies won, so you know the whole story.
Yeah.
Think of how many stories have been told about World War II because of the human drama.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know the outcome, but that's not what it's about.
It's not about that.
And that's why I say it's not historical in that sense. And when people say historical, to me that means dry and boring. This is as alive as anything could be.
You bring up a very solid point. Dry and boring. A lot of people, especially our biggest critics, they knock us on how we write dialogue. But what I really love about our process is we treat each character as humans. And they have their own voices. They're their own people.
And the dialogue, we made this decision early on. Not even the Koreans, nobody knows how they talked in 1592 in Korea. So what are you going to do? Take Shakespearean English? They didn't talk Shakespearean English.
And there's nothing
So-
wrong with doing that in your project, but I think for Yi it doesn't make sense.
But it doesn't make sense. You can't really write it feeling like it's time, and if you came up with some manner of writing it that felt archaic, it distances the reader.
Absolutely.
So we made a decision. The characters in the story, Yi Soon Shin and his whole crew at the time, they were current, they were contemporary, they were sailors, they were swearing like sailors, they were doing whatever. So we write that dialogue as if it was spoken today, so you feel like you're right there in the action. And
Absolutely.
people are like, well, it sounds like today. Yeah, what do you want it to sound like?
Well, and this is what's great is what we've done with Baron So. We created this villain who our audiences love to hate. He is in so many ways his own. He's his own creation. And even though he's a historical figure, he actually existed. What we've done with him is we allowed him to become a vast variety of things. He's like Yi Soon Shin, legendary in his own way and larger than life in his own ominous way.
When you say he existed, he didn't exist as we have him. By doing research, I was lucky I came across something that tied it all together.
Yes.
But he is, there's an island between Korea and Japan that were principally pirates, and then Korea subdued them and they became trade intermediaries with Japan. And they were called the Sos. And we have attached him to that, but he is completely of our own.
Yeah, originally the way Baron So was created is he is Yoshira, who was the Japanese double agent who basically led to Yi Soon Shin being demoted and tortured by the king. But we still had to, as Yoshira had multiple aliases. He was a double agent, so he was a spy. And we gave him the name Baron So, but we now needed to understand what this family name meant, and Dak did the research for that and brought that to our attention. And actually, the interior front cover text of Fallen Avenger 2 details all of that, and that's all. That was all you. I mean, that was all your writing.
Yeah, but it was an example of how you can take dry, boring historical facts and just spin an entire narrative out of it.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
it's grounded on reality, but it's a whole thing unto itself.
Absolutely.
And the whole book has been just like a great experience because we surprise each other. We will do the best scenes we can. He'll send me some really insipid lame thing. I'll turn it into gold. and then throw it back to him to work on and so on. And it'll be the best that we can do at the time. But since we're not working on a monthly schedule, over time we come up with ways to top ourselves that surprises even ourselves. And if we can do that and make the story better and make it not predictable, we didn't even know it was coming. The reader is not knowing it's coming, and it's perfect. It's really been like a fun experience. But my God, I don't think any humans in history have worked this long on comics.
Well, I'm very excited about bringing Hunter and Destroyer to our audiences. We're now actually, one of the main reasons why I'm here is not just to work on production, but we're also working on our Kickstarter campaign. And chances are, if you're watching this, it's probably our Kickstarter campaign is going to currently be in motion already, and we still have a lot of stuff to do in order to build our campaign. There's a lot of work that's ahead while we're producing the actual book. And we've been very creative about centering this campaign around the release of this book. And I honestly think it's the best issue we've done so far. And I can't just say that because I'm the creator of the series, or co-creator of the series. I say that because it's just the fucking truth. I mean, like, all the layouts we've been looking at, all the stuff we've been reading and influenced by, have all had an effect on the story that we're telling right now and the twist that we've come up with. I mean, seriously, this is going to be a roller coaster to the end. I mean,
yeah.
And it's the story that like you and I have talked about this before. There rarely does the middle of a story ever live up to the beginning and the end of the story. It's usually the middle where things kind of lag. But not only have we managed to get Warrior and Defender out there, which has been received with great praise, but then we got Fallen Avenger, which has been received with even greater praise. I mean, this book has been selling like crazy. And now we're moving on to Hunter and Destroyer, and we're not just trying to keep ourselves like leveled with what we did with Fallen Avenger. We're raising the bar yet again.
We have to, every time we're switching up to top ourselves, and that's the challenge, and that's why it actually takes quite a bit of time.
Yeah.
Because we'll kick back and forth things that will work, and my God, if that book was due tomorrow, that would.
See, but that's the thing. It is. That's exactly why I say it's not a luxury, because we want to get it done. I mean, you and I both want to get this book out there. We both want to, as you say, rub our dicks on it. And,
That's, a lot of what the reward is not monetary. I mean, we all like money, some of us more than others. But the reward is to hold in your hand something that you've created that's really well done, that you're proud of, and the achievement is there in your hand. That's the reward. And I'm like, I like this book so much, I'm going to rub it on my dick.
Well, that's exactly how I feel. Like, look, when I go to conventions, and my goal is to sell out. Sure, it's about the money, but what it's more about for me is making sure that people walk out of that convention with our book in their hands, and that they put some monetary value into it. They invested something into it. That to me is such
what they don't know is what a goddamn good investment that was, because everybody, rightly, everybody is like, well, my work's good, but this is a goddamn good book, and they don't know how good it's going to be until they go and read it.
Absolutely.
So it's actually doing a service.
For sure.
It's like introducing, like anybody does. If you've seen a good movie and you know that your friend would like it, but your friend thinks, it's a historical movie or whatever. And you're like, no, you got to see this dude. And they come back and they thank you. They're like, God damn, that was good. Well, that's what the comic is. A lot of people look at the title, YI SOON SHIN, and their own brains trip them up. Like, they'll look at that and go, well, that sounds unfamiliar, and it's probably not for me. And it's like, I always say to Henri, what's so different? Star Wars has Obi-Wan Kenobi. Nobody goes, oh, that's not for me. It's three damn names. And if this thing were set in space, everybody would be on board from the get-go. They'd be like, oh, it's a space epic or whatever. The history thing does have people, are not always comfortable with that. But once they get over that and actually read it, they bring their friends back. He's had people at conventions that he sold the book to. They read it, and the next day they drag friends to get the book. They're like,
Yes,
you
they
must
do.
come over here and get this book.
Yes, they do. And it's worked wonders for the series. And that's why I don't think, see, if we were working on a monthly schedule and had to get everything out the door, it'd be out the door. Not to say that it would be bad, but it wouldn't be as refined. It's not as refined. And there's, I mean, some people look down on this, you know, like particularly Michael Wojciechowski, who's a frequent guest on the show. He often questions that. He's like, dude, you've been working on this one comic series for nearly a decade, and you got to move on and you got to get more prolific. But for me, it's not about being prolific. I mean, George Lucas wasn't prolific. Look at what James Cameron, you know, there's tons of creators out there who, it's just been my personal understanding of how the entertainment industry works. When you look at projects that are successful or creators that are successful, they're usually tied to that one book for life, like Spawn. Okay, are you going to critique Todd for working on Spawn for, what, 30 years now? And getting to issue 300? You know, it's like, that's his goal. He's committed to that series. Or look at Stan. I mean, Stan is always creating new stuff now, but what really he's been tied to and what he is known for is what he did for the Marvel Universe, you know? He's the architect.
Well, we are on the track of finishing the third book. I mean, we're just starting the first chapter of the third book. But the first episode of any TV show, any series, any comic, any paperback that's a series, the first issues are difficult because you have to establish so many things. You know, the whole situation, the parameters, what you can expect. And once you've done that, it doesn't really make the later ones easier exactly, but they don't take as long because now you have the parameters. You know what your theme is, you know where, what the high points you're going to hit are.
Well, you know, I'm going to give you guys all a spoiler right now. You're not going to be able to glance away at the first few pages of Hunter and Destroyer 1 because for the first time ever in history, we have a Yi Soon Shin musical in full ballet, tutus and everything. And we've been working on this all time.
Singing, all dancing, Yi Soon Shin.
Is finding the right tone of magenta for the tutus. So
because musicals and comics, they work so
they work so well together.
But yeah, one of the other things we're doing is we're switching up our layouts. What even to me seems a little bit weird is I've done layouts all my career, but I never, because I thought of myself as a writer, I never took any credit for it. So nobody, of course, knew I ever did it. But looking back on it, God, I laid out covers and splash pages and whole stories and things. And I have my little crude sketches, because I can think very visually, I just can't draw refined, finished artwork. So only recently did I realize, hey, I've been doing layouts my entire damn career. And Henri's kind of got a natural aptitude for it as well. And so we've been doing the layouts between us. And
we have an aptitude for drawing layouts, but an ineptitude for doing fine art.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. L can do the really fun
L does, and honestly,
he takes our crude shit and makes it.
You know, his work on this first half of the book so far, because we're about halfway through the first issue already, and I mean his work has just been one of the most beautiful spreads. I thought that the multi-figure spread that we did in Fallen Avenger 4 was like the cream of the crop, but this, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, we've now topped it. And
we have a, let me
in the opening pages.
Let me speak in cinematic terms. Hunter and Destroyer #1 opens very cinematically. The first page is just like you're seeing a pre-credit sequence on the screen, and I'm not going to give away any,
It's all ballet, guys. It's all ballet.
But
Russian ballet.
You're seeing things moving towards you. You've never seen Yi like this. This isn't. See, everything is switching up. Yi has been through fucking hell, and he's over it. He's privately ailing. He's not. He doesn't let his men or anybody, and especially the enemy, know that. but he's got his own personal demons and shit going on. He's been tortured, he's been put back in charge. The Japs have been in Korea now for like 7 years, or going on, and he is fucking done with it.
Oh yeah,
there's no fucking mercy. And the same with Baron So. Baron So has always been after him. Now he's like, you know what? Fuck Baron So. You be on the goddamn run. He is the goddamn savage fucking Yi in this. He takes no prisoners. And anyway, you see him for the first time in a way you've never seen him. And then you turn the page, and it's like a huge widescreen shot of Yi in action, on horseback, in battle. That tops the multi-figure.
Oh, absolutely. And I wanted to kind of jump on that a little bit because, we saw this side of Yi awaken at the end of Fallen Avenger 4 when we saw the Red Baby basically telling him what he had left to do, kill them all, and he is now basically he's on limited time, and he's tying up loose ends, and
he wants the Japanese not only to be out of Korea, but to fucking pay for what they've done.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of people who have read our series before, they feel like there's a lack of compassion with Yi because he's always in our series we don't see enough of him, and we don't see enough of the political stuff. And
because everybody wants to watch.
Yeah, everybody wants to see talking heads.
Singing and dancing and politics and comics.
Yeah. Well, I kept fighting for that ballet scene, but no, you wanted something dramatic and epic.
I wanted a political discourse.
It's such bullshit. No, but I think it's Yi's actions, and one of the scenes that I felt that we displayed the greatest amount of compassion in that character was page 12 of Fallen Avenger 4. That was when Yi had come back and decided that he was going to resume the rank of admiral after being tortured and by his own government. And at that point, we only knew that Yi had resolved to fight the Japanese again and to protect his people who were now desperate, completely desperate without him. And part of the thing that I think has been really great is that this comic series is very dark, but it is a story of hope in a lot of ways. And
determination.
And determination. And it is essentially the story that is given truth and basically relevance to everything we do at conventions. And I really want this story, despite all the crazy things that happen with it, to still be rooted in that, because I think that's what Korean people need the most. I mean, they've been so inspired by what we've done.
Well, I'm sure you could damn us for the same thing, but I think that what we have brought to Yi maybe had to come from outside the country, because Yi to them, and indeed now with the world opening up and histories of other cultures, being known to the West, they're saying that Yi was the ultimate naval strategist in the history of mankind. Well, he's so revered that the city of Seoul is built around a statue of him and emanates like a wheel from it. It's difficult. It would be like here writing about George Washington, the founding father, and getting into the nitty-gritty, private shit, other stuff. It's hard because those figures are literally put on pedestals. Well, we're taking him and we're giving it a very now sort of feeling to it. I mean, it's sexy, it's savage, and it still historically follows all the beats and everything. But it's something that maybe we were able to add to Yi, that because he's, maybe somebody else could do that with George Washington. You know what I mean? Make him interesting again.
Well, sure, and and you could do that essentially with any historical figure, and you've seen that done many times with movies. Like one of my favorite movies is Invictus, and it's essentially the story of how Nelson Mandela influenced the South African rugby team to win the World Cup, and they were heavily supported by the apartheid. So it was a movie of how you know, this man used his political power to bring people together. And that was an interesting film for me. And of course, having Morgan Freeman as Nelson Mandela, I mean, you can't beat that. But there's so many good historical movies out there that are rooted in actual human...
But the difference, I'm going to say this to the listeners and viewers out there, the difference is this. They don't accentuate that historical thing. Comics is very weird. Every review we have, and we've had mostly good reviews, I would say predominantly good, I mean really good reviews.
I would say it's a 98% we've had good reviews.
But every single time, I feel like what they're saying, this is a comic for you, this comic is great, and then they use the word historical. And I know me as a comic reader, if I were reading that review, I'd be sold on this comic, I knew the historical word appeared. Oh, I'm not into that. I'm like, don't please. And they don't do that with movies. Like The Last Samurai with Tom Cruise, a movie I really liked the hell out of.
That was a great fucking
They don't
movie.
go, it's a historical movie. It's just a
It's fucking samurais.
Yeah, it's samurais. He is samurais.
Yeah.
It's a goddamn
well,
story. But for some reason they fixate on that in comics.
No, they do, and I think it's because a lot of people think it's, you know, that's how we try and portray the book. It's historical. It's rooted in that. But even in my pitch, when I pitch a customer on the floor, I'm not using the word history ever.
No.
It just doesn't even cross my mind, because history is just the backdrop of our story. It's not irrelevant. Clearly, we've been doing research, we've been reading stuff. But it's rooted in the research.
When they do Hamlet, they've done 1 million times in movies. They don't go, it's historical. Why does comics just zeroes in on that? Because to me, that pushes people away. I'm like, no, that Yi is as in your face and now as anything out there.
Absolutely.
Screw the fact that it took place in 1592. You'll feel like it's happening in your face right now.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So, and before you go on, I wanted to go back to something on the layouts. We're switching things up on the layouts, is where I was going when I was saying how we do that. This third book, we want each book to top the previous one, which makes a lot of sense. You read the first book and you're hooked, and the second book, instead of being like kind of marking time in the middle, it ups the game. And the third book really. So our layouts for this are going to be more open, the kind of layouts you haven't seen in Yi yet. Really illustrative and open, and just a feeling of switching up the whole layout and art thing. I mean, it is, and we've been working, that's been taking a lot of time, but we've been working our asses off on it.
Absolutely, and we actually have to get back to it. So Dak, I'm going to end this episode here, but we're looking forward to...
Well, wait a minute, before you end.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you got to whip out your...
I want you to try this other fine bourbon here. This one will grow hair on your teeth.
Hair on my teeth now, huh?
Yeah, or your eyeballs.
And, I'm actually going back into battle tomorrow for Dragon Con, so it's good that we have a little pre-drink thing going before the show starts. Keeps me out of my feet.
Yeah.
That's
Willet.
It's a nice fucking bottle.
Yeah. Here's your stuff.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
You have to walk that in there.
All right. Very cool. I'm going to keep this here, set this here.
Yeah.
And
here's the Yi Soon Shin
yeah.
and Hunter and Destroyer.
Yeah.
And to us, topping ourselves. And here's the thing, sometimes we give ourselves assignments, we don't know how we're going to do them. It's like we have to do better than we've ever done here. Figure it out,
Yeah, exactly.
And somehow we do,
And lastly, I think we should also drink to our audience for joining us today on the show, for supporting Yi Soon Shin over the years. As you guys know, we're off to great things with our series, and we appreciate you very, very much. So here's to you, finally.
Hey, I'll drink to that.
And onward to victory.
Onward to victory. Or backwards to death.
All right, folks, we'll see you next week with the new episode. Warrior Month kicks off next week. Can't wait to share with you guys who our first guest will be. I'll see you then. Until then, onward to victory.